Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and I've undertaken yet another pretty new concept for myself, and that is going with some pretty heavy mana and mana regen stacking as a Hierophant and utilizing the Indigon helm for the first time, since it came out. When it first kind of came out, it was just way too strong and really not that much fun, in my opinion, to go into, because with some of the Poet's Pens and Volatile Dead stuff, you could just make, Zerfies and whatever, you could make immortal characters. At this point, Indigon is still actually pretty fucking strong, and that is largely because of the Enduring Mana Flasks, making huge amounts of mana regen very easy to get at the cost of one flask, and then that also provides you a lot of additional life regen, so that in my current character setup as a Hierophant, which doesn't have much damage scaling, but it is trying to scale area with Ball Lightning as much as possible, I have quite a lot of energy shield, life regen, and a lot of mana with Mind Over Matter at a 40% damage taken rate. And overall, it's just this triple hybrid tanky character that can deal a shitload of damage if you're going to stand still and ramp up your Indigon quite a lot. So the idea was to go with a Ball Lightning character, scale lots of area with the unreserved mana node, so that at the same time is scaling our damage, and then I'm currently using an Eternity Shroud for some extra chaos damage as well, which isn't currently fully utilized because I don't have a shaped Call of the Brotherhood, so I'm missing one item from making it actually really good, but it actually still works really nicely, and the entire setup, just defensively while maintaining some good strong offense, is pretty insane, and it's just working out better than I ever thought it could have, but that is largely because Indigon is pretty damn nice right now with the Enduring Mana Flask. So if you have Indigon and your Enduring Mana Flask up, you get so much life regen that you don't need a life flask, and you can actually sustain Righteous Fire at the same time as well. That's the amount of regen you get onto your life just by combining Indigon with a Mana Flask and having your Mana Flask up basically always. The character ends up playing with quite a lot of Orb of Storms action as well, because Orb of Storms has huge amounts of area too, so I've signed it up for a bit of chain action too, and then whenever I need some heavier damage, I'm casting some Ball Lightnings, which is still pretty frequently, but Orb of Storms can do quite a lot of clear on its own in this kind of setup in any case. There's no real one winning factor in this type of build. Everything just comes together to make all kinds of smoothness, and it's been a very good character so far, even though it still is quite far from realizing its full potential, and I really kind of can't wait to see what the scaling looks like on the last few bosses in the game, because so far I've only done just a low tier Elder and some mid-tier Delve and a Shaper run, which went pretty smooth. But you can see here we are sustaining RF very comfortably with no actual RF sustain mechanic. It's just pure Indigon, Enduring Flask, and Mind Over Matter regen. But I don't do it very often because it definitely takes away all of the energy shield that I've worked a little bit to achieve, which is about 2,000 energy shield. And you can see here that the Indigon playstyle, since I don't currently have a huge mana cost on my Ball Lightning, I haven't done anything to increase it. It does take a bit of time to stack the Indigon up before a fight to make sure that it starts costing a lot of mana. You can see by the end of the casts here, my mana starts to chunk quite heavily, and that's because my Ball Lightning goes from an initial cost of about 40 mana to, once stacked up, like 1,000 mana per Ball Lightning cast, but we do probably have about 1,000 mana regen when the mana regen combined with the Mana Flask is always up. So it should pretty much bounce back up to full almost immediately, and I'm not even that heavily into the mana stack in this character. Plenty of people get thousands more mana than I do, but I think this is more than enough for this type of playstyle and for building the character. The only real question is, do you need an Eternity Shroud? And at the moment, I don't think you really do, but it does help with some scaling until you have some real nice lightning and cold sort of gear that would probably be just a nice crit chest and some good penetration and all that. Since my character barely has any penetration, a lot of my damage is going to be coming from the chaos, but I'm not really cheesing it with multiple sorts of conversions and extra stacks. So Eternity Shroud shouldn't be that big a deal, but I did make a pretty sweet staff. So I want to get into how I made this character and what we're looking at so far. So here is the character, currently level 87 Hierophant, called Never Inquisitor. I just then made an Inquisitor, and I have one person always complaining about more and more Inquisitors, so that's the name. And you can see here that I do have quite a lot of unreserved mana at the moment, because the idea here is that we want to scale our area through Sanctuary of Thought per unreserved mana. So we do have quite a lot of unreserved mana, giving us like 45% or something like that increased area, which also lets us stack a lot more Indigon buff, because you can get up to a lot higher mana casts, and then Mind Over Matter is also more effective with this much unreserved mana. So you can see that we have a baseline Ball Lightning of about 42 mana and 24,000 DPS, and we can scale our damage through Indigons, 25% increased spell damage for each 200 total mana you have spent recently, up to 2,000. It also increases its mana cost for each 200 total you spend recently. So with our baseline of, let's say, 24,000 and 42 mana, and then if you keep an eye on our tooltip here, once you start your spam, the mana goes up, the tooltip damage starts going up quite a lot as well, and you end up just scaling your damage into quite infinity amounts. From the beginning, we're now up to, 8 times damage and 900 mana, and you can definitely go even harder with Indigon and the Mana Flask than ever before. So that's where all of our damage scaling comes from, and the idea is that I then just want crit multi, and some cast speed, because all of our percent damage is going to come from a Helm slot. The Enduring Mana Flask is pretty damn potent as well, when combined with the non-instant mana recovery from flasks is also recovered as life. You can see that if I press Righteous Fire right now, it takes away all of my energy shield and then starts degenning my life too, but if we press our Mana Flask, it counteracts that completely, and you will just be able to sustain this quite easily. Once the Mana Flask runs out, or all of these Mana Flasks run out since they persist, it will take us back down to 0. So I only really press Righteous Fire during boss fights if I want the additional damage, because I do like having the energy shield buffer as well. Since I got a lot of life, a lot of energy shield, a lot of mana with Mind Over Matter, I become a quite tanky character. If I take away the energy shield, then I'm left with just the life and the mana, which is still pretty good, but could definitely be better. So you can see here, quite a lot of regen based off of that Mana Flask and Indigon. Now, aside from that, nothing else too special going on, just using an Eternity Shroud for a bit of extra damage with some fairly basic shaped gear, because shaped gear is going to be hard to get good stuff of, and the idea is to just try and utilize the extra 5 Ellie from Ellie as Chaos from the chest. And it's not very cheesy, because the way Eternity Shroud really works is if you convert one damage to another, you then get 5% Ellie of the original, the converted, and the converted. So here we're only converting a bit of lightning to cold, and thus my chaos isn't that huge, but it is a bit of extra damage. It doesn't have to be Eternity Shroud though. I think just a good crit chest would be pretty good, and maybe Arcane Surge as well. Even a +1 chest for your gems could work too, so it still would be a shaped chest, but the rest of your gear wouldn't have to be shaped. I'm just simply trying to use an Eternity Shroud for the league and not making it terribly cheesy. If I do end up getting a Call of Brotherhood that is shaped, which takes a lot of chances, then our damage should take another big power spike in the end game. So nothing too insane going on with the gear, but it is trying to scale the Eternity Shroud shenanigans. I then do have a good 6-link staff that is housing all of my current Ball Lightning setup, but the +3 to all lightning spell skills does apply to my other things as well. So it's Ball Lightning, Orb of Storms, and Summon Lightning Golem, and then I'll probably put a Vast Stormcall in my boots, which currently don't have anything. They're just a spare 4-socket. That's going to be pretty flexible, but I think I might put a Vast Stormcall there just for an additional button to press for big single target damage. Now the staff itself is about as good as it can be to begin with for 2 mods, +3 to lightning, and then the double damage. But if you can only get the +3 to lightning, it's honestly not a big deal because you can multi-mod around just that one mod, that one prefix, and then still do everything I did on my staff, but you will just have to craft double damage, which is going to be 10% less damage than my staff. So not a big deal, but for a min-max, well, it's going to be pretty tough to get one like this. It's certainly not carrying our setup, but it is a nice staff, so bear that in mind. Other than that, I will mention the Ball Lightning setup is Ball Lightning, faster casting, increased area, arcane surge, ice bite, and crit strikes. So they're all kind of utility gems, and then ice bite gets subbed out for slow proj. And it's a good time to mention that the tooltip on Ball Lightning is going to be the most flaccid thing you've ever seen in your path of building because of all the things that we scale here. Increased spell damage from Indigon and increased area for your Ball Lightning. Increased area scales the Ball Lightning to zap more times as it travels through things, which doesn't actually give you a tooltip effect. So we're currently at 160k Ball Lightning damage on POB since Indigon doesn't work. You're not really ever going to be sure how much spell damage you gain from that, but it is quite a lot, rest assured. And then increased area doesn't scale the amount of times we zap, so you've just got no idea how much damage you're actually dealing, but if you look at the clips, you should be able to see it's in the millions. But currently, it doesn't fucking say anything. So bear that in mind that you will be doing a lot of damage, but it's not going to look like it on a tooltip, thanks to increased area scaling and the Indigon. Aside from that though, I do want to have a quick look at the passive tree. It does take plenty of mana nodes across the tree, things like this one. You got some staff nodes over here, got some mana flask nodes down here. You got all these mana nodes, and I am utilizing an intuitive leap just to be able to grab one power charge, one golem buff node, mystic bulwark, prodigal perfection, and to skip the area damage node since area damage doesn't actually work for Ball Lightning. It hits with projectile damage, but it scales off of area percent for the thing that it does. So increased area of effect is good, but area damage doesn't really do anything. And then we've got the just strong mana nodes here, and the stuff that gives you a bit of extra energy shield, and then some arcane surge utility. But with our setup, we do turn all of this defensiveness into offensiveness as well. So yeah, it's pretty important to press the focus button. It's pretty nice to have a dying sun for a bit of extra coverage in your mapping, but it honestly doesn't make a big difference if you can't get one, because most of the time the single ball will be enough, and so will the Orbis Storms, and then the rest of it kind of speaks for itself. Not sure there's too much more to mention here. My Orbis Storms is pure utility at the moment, I will mention that. So it's got Orbis Storms, Curse on hit, Assassin's Mark, Power Charge on crit, and then it does do enough damage on its own in this setup regardless, that I do have most of the time Chain used for clearing, just so you can press it, and it will clear up like an entire screen by itself, but I use Onslaught in there for single target damage, a lot of the time just to keep up pure Onslaught. And then Ice Bite is usually used for mapping, just to get frenzy charges in my setup. That's about it though for this one, guys. I will still take it into far deeper content since it's only level 87, and it may end up being a very strong endgame character. Gonna have to wait and see. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.